You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again live and in your ear holes, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, for the bi-weekly options extravaganza known as the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting network upon which all of you are binging these days. Remember, if you're just listening to the Option Block, you are missing out on the just plethora of options content we have coming at you, usually multiple times a day throughout the week. Of course, if you want to upgrade, go above and beyond, participate in all of our fun live, great pro Q&A sessions. Got the Flow Master coming back. We had Jem Carson last week. A lot of you guys enjoyed that. Of course, the Options Oddities on Friday. Of course, it's giveaway time. It's time pretty soon to announce our winner of our January Options Insider Pro Trading Crate. We just unearthed more stuff deep in the Options Insider vaults here for you folks to have at, and I'm looking at piles of it right now. So we're going to be sending out more swag, more stuff in the options world than just about anybody else this year. It is fun to see. It opens up space in our storage, and we have a lot of cool stuff. So you might as well share it with you folks. Where do you go to be part of all of that fun, the drawings, everything else? Theoptionsinsider.com/secret club. Remember, just us guys and gals, you never know, listening out there, just us talking. So don't tell anybody. It's a secret. But you know what isn't a secret is that we like to kick off the network with a little bit of a fun twist every Monday. So this week, for our Name That 80s Wrestler, Guess That 80s Wrestler listeners, you're going to have to buckle up for this one because this is a bit of a deep cut. This is not the most memorable theme you've ever heard. It's not going to leap out of your brain immediately. It's also not the most memorable wrestler. This is definitely a deeper cut from the 80s wrestling oeuvre, if you will. So buckle in. Put on your thinking caps and see if you too can name that 80s wrestler. right. If you don't get it by now, kind of continues like that for a while, you're probably not going to get it. I would be surprised if either one of our cohorts or compatriots buzz in for this one, but I will give them both the opportunity. I've not seen either of them leaping into the show chat with their answers, which is usually the case when they know exactly who it is. But we shall see. I shall open it up to buzzing after 3, 2, 1, go. And whoever buzzes in first, if possible, shall get it. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, buzz.
Buzz.
Oh, all right, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. You're in it. All right. What you got, sir?
All right. It's a guess, but I'm going to give it a shot. Kamala, the Ugandan giant.
Whoa, that's a deep cut.
I want to honor our vice president because everyone said Kamala was dead, but it's proof that Kamala's alive.
You can tell by my uproarious laughter that is A, surprise to me, and B, not the guess. But a good guess nonetheless. Welcome onto the show, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Kamala, you threw me a curveball there. I did not.
Former one-man gang.
Yes. Many
that's
gimmicks.
the African dream, Hakeem.
Oh, no, that's right. Hakeem.
Yes, he was. It was a mockery.
I remember it was the African dream, which was, of course, everyone's dream back in the day. That, of course, that tinny voice can belong to none other than the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. It means, Mr. Meatball, the floor is yours. The way is open for you to hit a grand slam if you can name this, shall we say, niche player of the 80s, sir.
I'm thinking it's Tatanga. That was my guess.
Wow, both of you guys got like an African vibe from that, huh? Wow.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I did.
Interesting. And also, both of you could not be further from the mark. When I tell you who this is, you're going to be like, huh? All right, that was IRS.
What?
No way.
Yes.
Erwin R. Shysters?
That was Erwin R. Shysters' music. Yes. There also was an early one where it was just like a kind of like a clacking, typing, kind of adding machine sound, but he had music pretty much, and that was the music. So yeah, I said it's not memorable at all. I didn't get an African vibe from it. Clearly you two did, so that's interesting. Listeners, what kind of vibe did you get from that? Were you going down the Akeem, the African dream, and Kamala route as well, or somewhere else entirely? Man, that's interesting. That kind of is surprising. And you know what else is surprising are these markets. So let's get to them. Time for the old trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
There are not many times, listeners, when I wish this was a video show. That would be one of them, to see the look of surprise on both of their faces when I told them that was none other than Erwin R. Shyster himself. Probably most famous these days, not for his wrestling, but for being the dad of the guy who was the Fiend until not too long ago, which was one of the biggest ongoing gimmicks in the world of wrestling. These days, not so much. He got fired recently as well, I do believe. So intriguing stuff nonetheless. A pseudo-financial gimmick, I suppose, so it does somewhat tie into this show. As we see what's tying in with these markets, it's another one of those days where if you don't like what's going on the screen, listeners, just wait 5 minutes, because we had kind of a mixed day to start the day. Then it seemed like we were trending more firmly into the red to kick off the show. And now after our wrestling gimmick right at the beginning of the show there, we're seeing a bit of a mixed market again, with Dow up, S&P effectively unched to slightly down, and NASDAQ down a little bit, about 0.1% or so. So not a heck of a lot of movement out there. Market kind of trying to decide what it wants to be today. So as we kicked off the show, listeners, we had VIX at about 23.5, a little bit shy of that. So that puts it down about 0.5 point from where it was on Thursday's show. Again, not a big move, as everyone's kind of waiting and seeing. VVIX at about a 125, up 3 from this time last week. VXX 20.5 when we kicked off the show. That puts it down slightly, about 0.15 or so. UBXY was at about a 14.25, down about 0.1 point. Again, same deal. Everything's kind of keeping their powder dry today. Vol Q at about a 27.25 when we kicked off the show, I should say. It ticked up about 0.25 point, so that's only down about 0.5 point. It was down about 0.75 point at one point. So we saw Vol seem like it might be wanting to firm up there a little bit. Now maybe coming back off a little bit again. We shall see. Obviously waiting for some more earnings to come off. Obviously also waiting to see what unfolds over there on the global geopolitical front. We're kind of hearing different dire prognostications coming out of different sectors of Washington and over there from Russia. So it's interesting stuff afoot out here as we kick off the week. And since no one got it right, well, I guess I'll just go in order of the way they chimed in. We shall start with the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW, who went African as well. That's interesting to me. Mr. Uncle Mike, if you have any enduring memories of Erwin R. Shyster, who, by the way, I was intrigued to pick this one because we do a fun thing every couple of months. They have a subscription crate from a local store here in Chicago, which is called Pro Wrestling Tees, which is like the mecca for all things wrestling around the country. I didn't even realize this, but so they have a crate they send out every couple of months, and you get fun shirts and signed autographs and stuff. It's one of the things I do with my kid, and it's fun. We get one of the things they created are these little kind of mini, I guess you can call them, not quite bobbleheads, but little mini custom rubber kind of dudes, effectively, and they're all wrestling guys. And the one we got this package happened to be IRS, and so it made me think, we should probably squeeze him in on the show, and thus hilarity ensued. But Uncle Mike, if you have any enduring memories of the not quite memorable, but it happened gimmick IRS, have at it. And then B, more importantly, what is lighting up your tape is now we're in the green, sir, across the board.
Yeah, Erwin R. Shyster. It was an interesting combination when he teamed up with Ted the Million Dollar Man DiBiase, one of my all-time favorites.
Well, if he got millions, you need an accountant, sir. So it went hand in hand.
Well, but he's the IRS guy. But what I thought was ingenious by DiBiase is that if you're the $1 Million Man, you want to make it nice with the IRS. So I thought that was ingenious by him to team up with him. So that way he
probably could have used some of that advice in real life as well. I'm just saying.
Probably could have.
Ted ran afoul of a few regulating agencies, let's say.
Yeah. No, the enduring memory that I have of DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster is that when Brutus Beefcake made his big comeback on Monday Night Raw after a lot of bad stuff happened to Brutus Beefcake, wanted to make his big comeback, and then Erwin R. Shyster and DiBiase went out and they just beat the tar out of him on Monday Night Raw. And just the enduring memory that I have, I remember just I think I was even in high school at the time. It was kind of disturbing because they went through all the real life trauma of what Beefcake had gone through, and then just they did a heck of a job with it from the theatrical point of view. Just the enduring memory I saw just when Shyster and DiBiase were beating him up, just watching DiBiase laugh, going, "Welcome back, Beefcake," doing his evil laugh like that. And it was quite the memory. I remember just thinking, "Holy cow!" when I was in high school looking at this, and you don't want to mess with. I think it was Money Incorporated was their name as the tag team. And there's some people you don't want to mess with, that's for sure. So that's my memory of Erwin R. Shyster. Besides how he'd always come in and wrestle in his dress shirt, but that's the memory that I have of him. And just in terms of these markets, not much is happening right now. We're relatively flat. We were up, we were down, we were up, we were down. So we had that, and there really wasn't a huge amount of movement last night. Oftentimes, I like to, well, not oftentimes, pretty much every Sunday night, I always like to look at the futures to see what's happening with it. And so we had a little bit of movement overnight in the futures, not a ton, but definitely a little bit of it. We're having a little bit of a rally in the 10-year note, just kind of coming off of the sell-off that it had last week. So we have that happening. We have a little bit of a rally in silver, up 50 cents on the day. Just I'm looking at SLV, of course. So we do have some movement there. And what's going to be interesting to me going forward is that when we have a sell-off, money needs to go somewhere. So in other words, if we have a sell-off in the stock market, where does the money go? Does it go into bonds? Does it go into commodities? Does it go this? Where does it go? And so what we've been having a lot of in this pullback that we've had so far in 2022 is we've been having a lot of days to where the market would sell off, but everything would sell off. We'd have a sell-off in commodities. We'd have a sell-off in bonds. We'd have a sell-off in just a lot of different areas to where a lot of times, at least for the 20 or so years I've been around, when we have a sell-off in the stocks, there'll be a rally in bonds or a rally in commodities, or the money will appear somewhere. Not necessarily that day, but maybe the next day, there's either a rally somewhere else. But we have not had a lot of that too much. We've had somewhat of a rally in commodities, but in my opinion, it's not quite as much as where we've had the pullback in stocks. And I'm just talking for the first month of 2022. And so I think this is just going to be interesting to see if we have a major rally in another spot. I know we've had a rally in oil. Like I said, I get that. And I know it's down today 1.5%, but where are we going to have the rally in another area that's equivalent to what the market has come down. And that's just what I'm looking for. Or is the money just going to magically appear in stocks again? So we'll see that. And then I know that I always say Bitcoin sucks all the time, but I'll eat my words today. Bitcoin is up 8% on the day. So I will eat my words today, but I still think Bitcoin sucks. Anyway, that is my take on the market.
I wonder what IRS would have to say about the current crypto wave. We'll have to get them on our crypto rundown program. I have a feeling, Uncle Mike, if we had IRS on the show, you might want to be a guest star on our crypto rundown program. I'm just saying, even you, sir.
Oh, I would. Yeah, I would do. Yes, no doubt about it. I would love to be a part of that anytime.
You're like, okay, I'm in. I don't care what the show is. If you got the 80s Wrestlers, Uncle Mike is in. Speaking of which, Mr. Meatball, if you have any enduring memories of IRS. B, keep it on that 80s wrestling thing. I'm not sure if I told you. I think I told Uncle Mike last week. But within the last time you and I spoke, within the past week, I was within not that far, a few feet, spitting distance from one Jake the Snake Roberts, sir, at an event. So
you were.
You I saw Jake the Snake. Man's got quite the quiet voice. He was speaking, and you couldn't really hear anything he was saying on the microphone. But that was kind of fun. It was a surprise. I did not expect Jake the Snake to be there. But if you have an enduring memories of IRS, have at it, sir. And then B, more importantly, what is lighting up your tape in these markets?
Well, I remember he was originally in WCW, and he was his gimmick was like a boat captain. And then he came to WWF, and he was IRS, and it was just I thought it was the worst gimmick. I hated him, and I just didn't think it was a very good character. But it ran for a very long time. It was far better than, let's say, the Repo Man, but was definitely
we don't speak of the Repo Man on this network.
Definitely mid-tier. Let's just say that. Nothing super exciting about that guy.
Are these markets exciting you today, sir?
They're super boring as well. The one thing I would note is that Russell 2000 looks strong today. Biotech looks really strong today. But the market as a whole is kind of meh today. Could end up being an inside day. Vol off a little bit, vol futures off a little bit, but still pricey. Or we got CPI coming up, and I think that's maybe what the market is waiting on.
The market's waiting on. Uncle Mike, our listeners have you pegged. They have you figured out, Uncle Mike, because they're all saying that secretly you may be saying Bitcoin sucks, but you're holding a whole bunch of Shiba Inu, and that's up 46% today, Uncle Mike. So you're wise to the joys of Shiba. 46%. I'm looking at it myself. It is. My goodness, quite the day. I thought my wallet felt heavier today. All the millions of Shiba Inu I have in my back pocket. Loading me down today out there on the markets, listeners. Yes, Shiba Inu bucking the trend. 46% upside in the past 24 hours. The wild, wonderful, woolly world of crypto. We'll get to that a little bit later today. Listeners, got a great guest helping me break down everything going on in the world of crypto on the Crypto Rundown in a little over an hour from now, 1:30 p.m. today. So stay tuned for that. If you're listening after the fact, just hit next. It'll be there ready and waiting for you, listeners. Let's see if these markets are ready and waiting for us today. And I got to say, for the most part, the answer is kind of no. We're not seeing a ton of paper on the tape out there, I guess with the possible exception of SPY. We'll get there in a second. But VIX right now, 223,000 contracts. It can't even be bothered to cross the 250,000 contract mark by this time in the show. And the ADV is still holding pretty firm. It's closing in on 650, 647 to be precise. So getting back within spitting distance of that 700K level. Not quite there yet. I don't think today is going to help the numbers any. SPY, like I said, doing a little bit more, looking a little bit more robust. And we've seen this before. VIX kind of really outperforms on those crazy downside days when vol is popping and the markets are selling off. We saw nearly 2 million contracts over a week ago now on Monday, actually a couple weeks ago now on Monday. So intriguing stuff, but not quite there this past week here. Not quite there today either. Again, 3.85 million. The ADV and SPY just a tick under 7 million right now, listeners, 6.98 million. The S, I guess, looking decently firm, 838,000. For a while there, it seemed like everyone just kind of forgot about the S. It wasn't doing any numbers at all. Today, 838. The ADV is getting a little robust out there, too, 1.8 million. If past his prologue, we won't see that ADV hang out there for too long. That's a lot for the S to maintain. And IWM, listeners, back just ticked over 1.01 million is the ADV and IWM again. So we're back out there. If you want a barometer of frothy, crazy times in small caps, that's usually it. When that ADV ticks up to 1 million, Things are kind of crazy out there. Right now, we're at about half of that, 512,000. So small caps are not exactly quiet today. In terms of single names, they actually are kind of quiet today. It only cost you 208,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. So again, the markets are kind of playing a bit of that wait and see game again. 208, that's about almost 100,000 less than what we see on a more active day out there. That gets you to Pfizer. Listen, number 10. I haven't seen Pfizer out there in the top 10 in a little while. Let's see what's up with them right now. Pfizer, about 53 and a quarter, up about a quarter. So it's not like it's blowing the doors off from a movement perspective. Let's see if this morning they had a bit of a swing. Nah, that's actually, it got down to 52 and a quarter. So yeah, it's up about $1. So that is a little bit of a run out there in Pfizer land. Number 9, NVIDIA. Top 10's got to have NVIDIA or AMD in there somewhere. And today we got both. Spoiler alert. NVIDIA number 9, 239,000. Number 8, it's Snap. You know, I was joking about Snap last week. Like, who still uses Snap? But apparently I, like many people, was premature. The rumors of their death were greatly exaggerated, put it that way, because they actually reported their first profit. What a time for them to do it, too, right after they had been annihilated by proxy by the Facebook earnings through no doing of their own. And then they come out with their first ever real profit. That was a fantastic time to outperform. Talk about just delivering a left hook to Wall Street and to the analysts. So yeah, they were at 24.5 going into their announcement. They popped up to 36.60. They got up to about 30, almost 40, 39.94. And then are hovering at about 38.84 right now. So quite the little rebound for Snap. I guess some people are using it after all. Maybe spectacles hotter than I thought. Who knew? But so right now, Snap good for about almost 250,000 contracts on the tape. Number 7, Uber. Haven't seen them in our top 10 in quite some time. Uber good for 255,000 contracts at about 37.85, up about 75 cents or so, or right a little bit north of 2%. Number 6, they're a perennial top 10er now. It's our old friends Ford. They took a bit of a shellacking last week on their earnings, and they're off a little bit again today, about 0.5%, shy of the 18 handle right now. After getting a little bit north of that earlier today, they got up to about, they pretty much just flirted with the 18 handle and gave it up. So the days of those maybe 25, 30 verticals and things in Ford maybe done, at least for the time being, but we shall see. You can't write off Ford quite yet. 310,000 contracts, so it's certainly a robust volume machine still out there. Number 5, it's AMD. It's always hanging out number 4 or something like that. Today it's number 5, 359. Number 4, this is an interesting one. We were just talking about this. We had it in our question of the week last week, some of our names that you might be looking to trade in your or put in your rebound portfolio. Well, maybe if you did Peloton last week, you're looking all right, at least if you did it right before the close of the trading on Friday, because, of course, the rumors started swirling in the after hours of the buyout. This is things we've been talking about for a lot of these kind of pandemic all-stars that have, let's say, come on hard times of late. Peloton is one. Robinhood is another. At a certain point, if the sell-off continues, they have to become attractive to outside buyers for a variety of reasons. They have quite the community. Peloton has a stable of loyal customers. The brand has value if they can't make money on their equipment. Someone else who has more deep pockets, larger economies of scale, can take advantage of that built-in audience. Same thing with Robinhood. And so Peloton seems like they got the rumor mill swirling after the bell on Friday with, I think it was Amazon and Nike were the names that people were rumored to jump into that list. That they had them up 30% at one point in the after hours. They're up a little bit today, still up 18.25%, but giving some of that back. They opened the day at 31.62, not quite there at about $29 right now, but still a nice little pop for them compared to where they were. So they closed at 24.60 on Friday. So a nice little shot in the arm for them, even if they are giving back most of that. So not most, a good chunk of that upside right now. But you buying what they're selling out here? You think these rumors are decent? It seems like people have splashed some cold water on this one. Obviously, Apple has been thrown into the rumor mill as well out there, but people thinking maybe these rumors of an imminent acquisition may be a little bit overdone. But Peloton, good for number 4, 395. Number 3, the aforementioned Apple. Man, today's just a rounding error for Apple. A whole bunch of nothing going on out there. 501,000 contracts on the tape, listeners. Apple's pretty much unched. I can't remember the last time we saw Apple do this little paper by this time in the day. You got to kind of go back a ways. So that's, I suppose, significant for its lack of significance. There is literally nothing going on in Apple right now, which is kind of strange. Number 2, Tesla. Yes, number 2 is Tesla. 623,000. Let's see where our old friend Mr. Musk is hanging out right now. 916, again, off about 3/4 of a point, about 7 handles or so. Not a huge day for them out there as well. Good for 623. So it's kind of, again, shrug your shoulders kind of day. which means the top dog spot is being taken by Facebook yet again. They continue the drubbing in Facebook, off another over 11 handles, or nearly 5% today, down to right around 225 or so. That puts it up at number one with a pretty meager 839. Usually Tesla can manage that itself for number two, but that's good enough for the top of the list on a pretty quiet, meager day. And I think we have a poll going live. I'm not sure if it went live right now or if it's about to go live out there, listeners, but we're going to ask you questions about this exact thing. Let's see if it's not live. Here we go. Yes, it just went live. Okay, so we asked you if you had to buy. Somebody's name is getting beat up. If you had to buy a 10% out of the money call expiring at the end of the year, December 31st, in one of these following names, which would you choose? Gave you some fun choices. Good old, the aforementioned Peloton, kind of a hot one right now. A Facebook, one that has been beaten up quite a bit. A Robinhood, and the old SPY SPX to go macro out there for you. We just went live. A lot of people are already voting. Just went live a couple of minutes ago. So far, 45% of you choosing SPY/SPX. That's interesting. And about 29% choosing Facebook, about 21% choosing Peloton, and a meager 4% choosing Robinhood. Wow, I thought that would get more love. That just went live. You got throughout the week to get out there. It's our question of the week, after all, listeners. Get in there, make your voices heard. Let us know what you got on the brain. Let's see what the earnings season has on the brain for us this week. We've got some decent names popping off this week as well. Hasbro going out to the toys today. Tomorrow, Pfizer, BP, and the aforementioned Peloton. Maybe it'll give us some more insight into that, if they're in play or not. Wednesday, CVS, Disney. Interesting to talk about them. They were recently right back at the level, right around 138, which was pretty much where they were going into the big sell-off in the pandemic in March of 2020. So they pretty much given back all of their pandemic gains and then some. So intriguing to see what's going on with Disney right now. I know his CEO, I should say the new CEO, not exactly a popular figure over there in Disney, kind of slashing and burning everything. That usually tends to rub people the wrong way. And so, interesting to see what's going on out there. Uber and Zynga. Yes, the aforementioned Zynga. We used to love them. Mr. Grigas used to love them on the show. There's 5 calls. Those were worked out if you held on to them for a better part of a decade. Uber leaps. Mattel on Wednesday as well. Thursday, we have Coke, Pepsi. That's funny. AstraZeneca and Twitter, as well as Duke Energy. I haven't seen the Duke/the Duck on our odd block in a while. And then Under Armour. Let's see. We got a results report. Actually, Hasbro has already popped off before the bell. Let's see what's going on in the land of toy volatility, shall we, listeners? I may have one or two, or let's say many Hasbro items floating around the studio right now. Let's see. They were this morning before the bell. They were at 93, almost $94, and they went into their announcement. They were pricing in 5.9%, and it looks like, listeners, not a lot of juice in the toy land right now because they're only off about 2.8% right now. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah. Oh, wow. They've actually rebounded now to pretty much exactly where they were. They went out into their announcement, 93, 92, and they're now at about $94 exactly. So they pretty much are almost literally unched from their announcement. Wow, that's impressive for the premium sellers. Get out while the getting's good, listeners. That's kind of what we come to expect now in the post-earnings pandemic season, where earnings just don't matter. Just nothing happens. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. We'll see if that's the case, but an intriguing one here for Hasbro. So there's literally zero toy volatility right now, listeners. Hanging out at about an 83% average for the season. You can check it out for yourselves. And there is a new earnings trade on the earnings trade report. Again, all this data updated, hot off the presses from our friends over there at ORATS. They have a new, looks like they shorted a straddle in Gartner, which is ticker symbol IT today, which is kind of interesting. So if you want the latest earnings trades, earnings move results, and earnings season reports, they're waiting for you over there. TheOptionsInsider.com. Let's look at some hot ones really quickly. We have Pfizer tomorrow before the bell. They're hopping and popping today. $53 is where they were as of this report. They're pricing in about $1.50. They're pricing in $2.30. In the past, they've moved $1.50. So extra juice for Pfizer. LYFT, $37.68. They're pricing in $3.80. In the past, they've moved $3. So a little bit extra juice. Peloton tomorrow as well, $24.60. They're pricing in $4.65. In the past, they've moved about $2.50. So nearly double their previous straddles. But then again, we don't have a lot of data for them, A. And B, it's hard to argue it isn't warranted when they move 30% in the after hours on Friday. Let's go out here really quickly. Disney, 9th after the bell. 142 even is where they were as of this report. They're pricing in $640. In the past, they moved $433. What are your thoughts on Disney here, listeners? It's an intriguing name. They kind of own a little bit of everything at this point, but a lot of those sectors have been underperforming of late. Mattel back out to the earnings front, or I should say the toy front. 9th after the bell. 21.25 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $1.20. In the past, they moved 95 cents. So a little bit of extra juice. If what we're seeing in Hasbro is any indication, that's all wasted money. Sell it now. Let's go to the Duck, aka Duke Energy, on the 10th. Ticker symbol DUK, listeners. Haven't talked about them in a little while. 104.25 is where they were trading as of this report. They're pricing in $2.79. In the past, they've moved $1.79. So exactly $1 worth of extra juice in the Duck. That's kind of interesting. Twitter, 10th before the bell, about $37 is where they were trading. They're pricing $4.25. In the past, they've moved $3.75. So 50 cents worth of extra juice. Is that merited? I'll let you be the judge of that, listeners. Let's get to it. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, we get whimsical, listeners, and we unleash the Eye of Sauron upon the markets and see what it comes back to us with. And today we're actually going back to a relatively frequent offender right now. We talked about this name quite a bit on the show recently, and we're back to them again today, listeners, because they are going into their earnings soon. These are our old friends. This is COTY. This is the Meatball's favorite, American multinational beauty company. Again, they've been on our Odd Block quite a bit of late. In fact, we just talked about them a few weeks ago, January 24th. We saw someone coming in. We talked about going back to COTY then and saying someone was loading up on the February, expiring on the 11th, 8 half calls for 54.5 cents. They paid through the offer for 4,023 of them. They bought a total of 12,000 on the day. So they were really all fired up about the old COTY. And then we have today, once again, coming back to COTY. And this time we're talking about the 8 half strike again, but this time in the regular monthlies, going up for 72 cents, 4,998 of these bad boys. So yeah, Feb 8 halves going up today, as well as the February 11th also expiring. Actually, the February 11th ones were on the January 24th show. Today we have about 5,000 of the 8 halves and a total, if we add them all up here, let's see. Yeah, 16,000 of the 8 halves have gone up today. COTY right now, by the way, listeners, $8.62. We've broken down the saga of COTY multiple times here on the show. I won't bore you with that one. But today we have the 8 halves going up on the bid, it looks like, listeners. So it looks like someone is perhaps paying off the 8 halves that we talked about just on the 24th. So we're coming back to pay that one off. Looks like they dumped them out for 75 cents, which is interesting, given the fact that they're expiring this week. So they still have a decent bid to them, 71 cents. And then coming back in perhaps to load up on the other side of those. There we go. So the 8 half, looks like it's just with stocks. Looks like they're just dumping the call. That's what's confusing because it's going up marked as spread, but the spread appears to be the stock, which is weird. You don't normally see that. All right. So yeah, looks like they're dumping those 8 halves. And if that's not enough, we also have some regular monthly 8 halves going up on the bid as well here for 72 cents. So folks are just dumping the 8 half strike today, Mr. Meatball. First, looks like probably closing the 8 halves that they bought back a couple of weeks ago. They paid 54 cents for them, sold them for 72 cents. So not a bad do, your old 18 cents there. And then also dumping what first caught our eye today, about 5,000 of the regular 8 halves. First off, I know you love yourself some COTY. What are your thoughts on all this COTY action? And then B, your thoughts that at least the 8 half calls did all right. And now they're coming back in to blast all way in that strike, sir.
Yeah, this one will get like some real spastic action and where it doesn't trade very much, and all of a sudden it just goes off. And yeah, you can see that this trader rolled his or her position and is getting ready to play these earnings.
Should mention they have earnings right after the bell today, so this is a bunch of pre-earnings trade. Yeah, so far today, listeners, we have 16,000 of the 8.5s expiring today going up, 15,000 of the 9s expiring on the regular monthlies going up, 10,000 of the 8.5s expiring on the monthly. So a lot of paper going up pre-earnings, about 4,000 of the 8.5 puts. So there's a lot of paper flying fast and furious heading into the earnings. But yeah, don't think we've seen the last of COTY here, listeners. This is an interesting one. Let's see how much it's moved just over the past month or so. It has had quite the sell-off. Beginning of the year, listeners, it was at $10. So it's below 8 now. It got down to as low as, looks like 807 before it bounced off that there on the 27th of January. So it's had nearly $2 range over the course of the past month. So intriguing stuff. It sounds like someone is not done with COTY, even though they are taking off some of their paper out here. So a little bit of a winner chicken dinner. Let's go out to another name that is not COTY, which is rare these days. COTY is kind of like the new Stone Cold. They love it out here. Let's go out to Preferred Apartment Communities, Inc., a newcomer to the odd block. Ticker symbol Apartments, a.k.a. APTS, APTS. Trading right now $17.90. Let's see what kind of year they've had. A year ago, they were trading $7.87. So they're up pretty much exactly $10 on the year. So that's quite the nice run for them. And it's pretty much been mostly an upward trajectory for them. They rallied all the way through. They had pretty much doubled by the end of the year, December 16th. They went from about almost $7 and change to about $14.50. So they pretty much doubled. Good year for them, obviously. And then they popped towards the end of the year. By January 4th, they hit their high for the year of 19.25. So they had a nice pop there again from December 16th to January 4th. They popped from another about over $5. So I'm not sure what was driving them or maybe good earnings. We shall see. And then they've kind of been giving it up from then ever since, selling off a little bit down to about $16 back last week, and now kind of rebounding a bit from there up to about $17.90 or so right now. So intriguing time, a little bit of turbulence of late in the last month and change for everyone's favorite Preferred Apartment Communities, Inc. And this is not like an apartments.com, like you might think. This is another REIT. So yet again, joining the long line of REITs that have popped in here on the odd block list. And it looks like someone coming in here today and deciding, you know what, this recent sell-off is overdone. And in fact, the 52-week high, push short of that, we're going to burst through that because someone coming in this morning and scooping up 4,610 of the July 20s and paying $1.35 for these bad boys for the privilege. That's, if you're wondering, that's about a 50 vol. That's a 49 vol that they paid, which is a hefty amount of vol for a REIT. But then again, this past month, it has been turbulent. The rest of the year, not so much. So you could argue maybe a 50 vol is a bit much. They lifted the offer on these things. So intriguing. The stock was pretty much right here when they did it. So it wasn't like the stock had a big move since then. There are earnings that are coming up at the end of February. That's the first announcement. They're probably going to get 2 between now and July. So yeah, interesting stuff. Mr. Meatball, someone paying through the nose for extreme upside July calls here in a REIT. What say you?
I mean, I get in rising interest rate environments, in inflation environments, that owning apartments is going to be a win. Maybe they're looking for a real strong move in the real estate with the real estate side with inflation. And I see there's actually already some decent open interest there. So I'm wondering whether this is additive.
Yeah, that could be. That's right. I don't have an opening.
Yeah, it looks like they traded them on Friday. So yeah, some of these went up on Friday. Yeah, they did 5,000 on Friday and another 6,000 a day. So yeah, we definitely have
another hot REIT, baby. Another hot REIT to add to the collection. For as sleepy as REITs are, it is surprising how often they pop up on our scans. People do like their options on REITs for whatever reason. I have to recall any that have really paid off well, but we shall see. In fact, speaking of paying things off, let's do that right now, listener. Let's go out to Ares Management Corp, which is not quite a REIT, but they are an investment manager, but they have private equity, a bunch of other things mixed in there. Ares Capital Corp, listeners. This is ticker symbol ARC. There's a couple of them out. There's a couple of Aries. So don't get caught up with some of the other ones. We want ARC with 2 C's out here, listeners. And Mr. Meatball back on the 23rd. So the heady days of 2021. Who can remember back so far? December 23rd. We profiled 4,370 of the Jan 21 calls going up in ARCC, Aries Capital Corp. And they paid a whopping 15 cents for these bad boys. That was about a 13 ball. So the stock was $20.62 in this name. Again, this name not exactly blowing the doors off. A year ago it was trading $18. I'll just give you that hint. So I had a bit of a run. Not bad, but again, it's not the most, not the sexiest of names. And someone was looking for a pop, though. They wanted a nice pop to the 21 strike by Jan expiration. And Mr. Meatball, this trade is now done. We could say how it worked out. Take a whopping guess where Aries stock closed on expiration on January, sir.
At the strike.
$21 exactly. Not 21 and a penny. Not $20.99. It closed at $21. That just brings a smile to my face. I don't know why. I guess because I've been on the other side of those a few times. So, and having seen them many times as a market maker, the joy of pinning. They pinned quite literally, listeners. So they're 15 cents gone the way of the dodo. And of course, double win. They don't expire in the money, so there's no auto exercise. Remember, you got to be a nickel in the money to get auto exercised. So they have no stock right now as well, which is kind of not good because the stock right now is $22.50. It had the move that they wanted. It's all been post expiration pretty much. The stock has been on a tear since expiration. It's up $1.50 since then. So, Mr. Meatball, this might be the worst of all scenarios. You buy options. You don't really get the move that you wanted by expiration. You expire exactly on the strike. I got to assume maybe they wouldn't have minded getting some of the stock there. And they don't even get that. And then they get a huge move in the stock. So they drop 65 grand on the options. They get no stock. And then they miss out on this move of $1.50 since then, sir. So kind of a double whammy for these guys.
Yeah, that really stinks. Hopefully they decided to exercise them, even though they weren't in the money, and they're happy.
Yeah, you can do that, or you can just go out and just buy the stock, right? Because that's where it's trading right now. But just, yeah, that's kind of, people always write in with their tales of woe, listeners. Here's a good one for you. Even the size players can run up against this every now and then, and that just sucks all around for these people out here in Aries Capital Corp. Uncle Mike usually does not suck, listeners. So let's see what he's got in store for us this week. It is time for a bit of strategery. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the strategy block. Uncle Mike, I set you up with some pretty high praise. I said your strategy block usually doesn't suck. So now you have to deliver, sir. What you got for us?
It usually doesn't suck, huh? Well, that's something to where I hope I don't suck today. So it's kind of like that Cubs manager a couple of years ago. He usually said, try not to suck, I think was his thing of what he would say. So anyway, what I want to talk about today, I want to honor IRS Erwin R. Shyster with a tax strategy. It's one that's being talked about going away soon. So it might be something to consider. Just talk to your tax accountant about it. That is the backdoor Roth IRA. And so let's say for a second that you would like to contribute to a Roth IRA. Well, you might not be able to because of the fact that if your income, if your modified adjusted gross income for 2022 is more than $214,000 annually, you will not be eligible to contribute. And that's, of course, if you are married. If you are single, the number is $144,000. And you can make a little bit less than that and kind of do a partial contribution. But if it's above that, you won't be able to do it. It has to be below $204,000 if you are married, and it has to be less than $129,000 if you are single. So with that, what can you do? Well, a couple of things. Let's say that you want to go the Roth route, meaning you want to be taxed now and then know that you're not going to be taxed later when you take money out of your retirement account. Well, if you have a 401k at your work, you can contribute to a Roth 401k. That is something with which you can do. But let's say that you've maxed out your traditional 401k and you have more money that you'd like to put away. Well, one thing that you can do is you are eligible to put money into an IRA, a traditional one, but you won't be able to deduct what you put in. Well, that kind of stinks. What you could do, assuming you have no other traditional IRA anywhere else, if you do, then there are still ways to do it, but it doesn't quite work as clean as I'm about to describe. What you could consider is a backdoor Roth IRA, meaning if you've maxed out all of your work retirement stuff and you want to have a Roth IRA, and you make more than the amounts with which I mentioned earlier, step one, contribute to a traditional IRA. Now, you will not be able to deduct that. However, because of the backdoor Roth IRA rule, what you'll be able to do is convert that IRA, the traditional IRA, into a Roth IRA. And that's what's known as a backdoor Roth IRA. Now, once again, there's talk about this going away soon with President Biden's bill that he's looking to pass. Whether that's good or bad, I'll leave that up to the audience to decide. But the point is that this is something you need to be aware of. Once you convert to a Roth IRA, then it's just the same concept of having a Roth IRA for people who made less than those amounts. You'll get the same benefits, the same everything that a Roth IRA offers. And this is a way with which you can participate in a Roth IRA. One thing that I like to do for my clients a lot of times, for the ones that make more than that amount, is to try and make it so that we can use a smaller amount of money with the Roth IRA, of course, because you can only contribute $6,000 if you're under 50, $7,000 if you're 50 or older per year. And a lot of times what I'll do is a more aggressive strategy with the Roth. So that way, let's say that you make a lot of money with the aggressive strategy over time, then you'll have the tax advantage to go along with it. So once again, for today, to honor Erwin R. Shyster, make sure that you look into a backdoor Roth IRA. It's something to consider. And if you have any questions on it, you can always call me. I'm happy to discuss. And that is the strategy block for today.
Congratulations, Uncle Mike. That mostly did not suck. You lived up to your billing. You're damning with faint praise, as usual, sir. As we keep on rolling.
Mostly
did not suck. All right, let's go here into the mail block. Actually, we gotta bring it to a close a little bit early today. I neglected to mention we have Mr. Meatball's gotta go the way of the dodo pretty soon. So instead, we'll do a combo around the block as well as where they can go to learn more. Mr. Meatball, sir, first question for you, because I know you gotta go pick up the kids right now. First off, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week, sir? And then B, more importantly, if folks want to check you out, they want to learn more about the land of the pit, where should they go? What should they do? Mr. Meatball, going once, going twice.
I'm up. Can you hear me?
Whoa.
Can you hear me?
Barely, sir. I can hear you barely, yes.
All right. Well, the CPI, it's all about inflation. That number is going to be as big, if not bigger than non-farm for the next 6 months. So pay attention, look out for CPI. That is going to drive the market for the rest of the week. That number comes in ridiculously hot. We're going to get spooked. So just be aware of how important CPI is. And if you want to find me, remember I write awesome VIX content every day at optionpit.com, and you can read everything I write about VIX, everything I'm seeing in markets, and some written content on the web. Go to optionpit.com.
Optionpit.com is the place to go to learn more. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on throughout the rest of this week in addition to your backdoor IRA conversions? And then B, if folks want to hit you up, they want to check out your growing array of internet content, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Well, a few things. First off, in terms of what I am looking at right now, seeing if we've bottomed out in the 10-year based on the CPI coming up, as Mark had mentioned. Also watching to see if we can hold this 4,500 level with the SPX. We did go below it today, but we came back above it, so I think that's a key number. Then in terms of if you are looking to work with me or learn more about me, follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. I put out a lot of content. I wrote an article today on interest rates I just put out there. And I'll also be having YouTube videos as well. My goal is to have 50 by the end of the year. I have plenty of them in store, just having some technical issues at this stage, getting them uploaded onto the YouTube site, but they should be up shortly. So there's a lot of content out there. Follow me on Twitter to get updated on it. Also, check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. And if you are looking to work with a financial advisor who delves in the option product and oftentimes likes it.
Check them out, listeners. stcharleswealth.com is the place to go. And listeners, you have not lived until you've seen Uncle Mike's TikTok. The man can dance. Let me just put it that way. His TikTok dances worth finding. If you can find him on TikTok, he's kind of hidden there, but it's good stuff nonetheless. Speaking of good stuff, you guys had some good things to say in our questions of the week this week. Well, I should say last week. Let me see if I can pay some of these off for you here. Last week, we asked you about high skew environments. What do you guys like to do in those types of environments? And as I expected, you guys are fans of selling the puts or the put spreads or the old bullish risk reversal. 56.5% for that. Followed by, surprisingly, long puts or put spreads or collars coming in number 2 at nearly 22%. 13% for put flies or ratios. I kind of thought those two would be reversed. And then your others were about 9%. We had some interesting ones, stock subs and a few other things out there for that. Again, if you choose other, you gotta tell us what it is. It's kind of part of the deal. So all 9% of you gotta send in your others out there. We also asked you last week, kind of a precursor to our question this week. We asked you, hey, a lot of you starting to scoop up some of these high flyers that have been beaten up a little bit towards the latter portion here of the pandemic. Which of these names are on your recovery, oversold, call it what you will, portfolio right now? Gave you Peloton, gave you Robinhood, gave you AMC or other. A lot of you wrote in for Rocket, so we were thinking about doing one with Rocket this week, and then, of course, other things have intervened with all the news of Peloton and everything else. But Robinhood won this one. 56.5% of you said Robinhood. Of course, that was kind of in the middle of the big rally for Robinhood. Now we're seeing Peloton move, so maybe Peloton will take it. Even like I said earlier in the show, it was SPY/SPX taking it. And that remains the case right now. SPY, SPX, 38.7%. Facebook has caught up, though. 35.5% for Facebook right now, 16.1% for Peloton, and only 9.7% for Peloton, I should say for Hood. So our winner for last week, kind of looking weak this week. But let us know what your thoughts are at options. That's our question of the week. So you got all week to play along with us. Of course, we'll be back in about exactly an hour to break down the mad world of crypto. Will we get to Shiba Inu? Well, no, we shall see. Got the folks from ARCA joining me to do just that. Of course, we'll get to ETH and Bitcoin, the vol, the SKU, the OI, all that cool stuff, and a whole bunch more over there in the land of crypto. And then again tomorrow, got the Flow Master joining us in the hot seat for a pro Q&A, his first one of the new year, so that should be fun. Of course, Wednesday, your double dose of education, Options Bootcamp, Options Playbook Radio. And then back again on Thursday, episode 2 of the Option Block. We'll see you then.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.